We're going to walk you through a PowerPoint. Those of you who have laptops up, you might want to open them up and go to the class website as well as the Catalyst page, and you might want to have both of those up. The website for the class is nypolisci.org. There are tabs across the top, and on the left, far right side, you'll see the class tab that's for this distance learning class. My experience for many students who take American government in high school is they don't remember a thing about it, except that it was not very interesting to them and wasn't very inspirational. So what we're going to try to do is something, I hope, a little bit different. We will study the American political system, but the primary goals, the primary things that we're going to be looking at are as follows. How do we make our communities work better? That's a critical thing. Politics, for me, is fundamentally about making people's lives go better. If we can't do that, then why bother? Secondly, what we want to try to do is make the politics of the society, the politics of the United States, a politics that is focused on regular people's everyday lives and the stories that come out of regular people's everyday lives. So much of political life is centered on Washington, is centered on the needs of business, is centered not on the needs of families, working people, etc. For most people in our society, at least in my experience, for most people in our society, when we think about politicians, when we think about politics, we think corruption, we think alienation. We need to figure out how to change that orientation. For that to happen, one of the things that needs to happen is this next thing, and that is that politics needs fundamentally to be about empowering regular people. So how do we do a class where at the end of the class you are a more competent, more confident citizen? The last thing that this class will be about is understanding the interconnectedness of the problems that we're facing and the opportunities that we're facing. Right now, the world is moving at a really fast pace. Things are very interconnected. I mean, it could be that in 15 minutes, the world could be annihilated by nuclear weapons. And yet, we also have the possibility, because of that interconnection, we also have the possibility of making changes very quickly because we've got many minds, many voices, all connected. And on the flip side of that, we have a really serious problem with the imbalance of wealth and power in the society. We're at a period right now where we have more political and financial inequality than we've seen in this country. What should you expect for this online class? Well, one thing you can expect is, if you know anything about my teaching in my classes, is that this class will be a little bit different because I'm adopting a new philosophy of less is more. And my theory is this, that if I give you less, you'll have more time to do more. We'll see how this goes. This is, though, a serious 4-unit college-level class. The normal expectation for a college student is that for every hour in class, you put in 2 hours outside of class. So for a distance learning or an online class, if your professor is doing what they're supposed to be doing, you should be studying somewhere between 10 and 14 or 15 hours a week on that class. There's regular reading, there's regular writing, there's regular participation, both in class and outside of class. And that's just the way it's going to go. Lots of hands-on learning even in this distance learning class. I want to emphasize that you can do really well in the class. Part of it is just deciding to take yourself seriously as a student. A lot of times students, they're not focused and they don't have that much confidence. Decide that that investing in your learning is an important thing, then get organized. So what that means is you need to not put stuff off. If you're going to be successful in this endeavor, you've got to schedule it. I've spent a lot of my energy figuring out a sequence of readings, a sequence of assignments, etc., just for you. That's an amazing luxury. And if you have a good attitude about learning, then your learning will go better. Now, the last thing here is that you need to stay focused. There are 6 key learning goals for this class. At the end of the quarter, these are the things that I want you to master, or at least to get under your belt well enough. So the first one is this: how do you make your life go better? How do you make your life, your community, your family go better using the tools of politics? So the next 5 learning goals all flow out of that one. So let's look. Secondly, what we want you to do is we want you to be able to understand, how does power work in the society? How does politics work? Part of it is understanding the formal system of governance, but another important part then is understanding all the decisions that are being made that you're not even aware of. We want you to learn how to be participants, how to be effective at politics. If we could figure out how to get you to think about registering and then teach you the mechanics of registering to vote, that would be an important learning goal. But what if we could do more than that? What if we could teach you to register other people to vote? Not just the mechanics of filling out the form, but the whole process of recruiting people, building the relationships, having the conversation, inspiring, encouraging, mobilizing, and then getting those people to the polls to vote for something that you cared about. Can we figure out how to help you tell a good story so that somebody will pay attention, be excited, mobilized, maybe pissed off, agitated, and then will go do something to fight for themselves and to fight for you and to fight for the community? How many of you are tied into any kind of social media? Can you use those vehicles for political purposes? That's part of the hands-on practice of politics that we want to help you get good at. And a critical component of that will be figuring out how to build better relationships. There's so much distraction out there that gets us not to even notice that critical decisions are being made. Now, some of that distraction is quite intentional. Some of it is a byproduct of other stuff. We also want you to sharpen your own political values, to figure out what's important to you. Why is that important to you? And then to notice, by the way, that other people have political values. Other people are moving around, making decisions, doing things, and that would include me. I have political values. I'm not neutral, and I'm not going to pretend to be neutral. I have a side. I'm on your side as students. I'm on your side as working people. I'm on your side as young people in this society. My goal for you, my goal for this class, is that we build a democracy in this country, an actual functioning democracy. What do I mean by that? I mean that you should have self-determination. You should have a lot of control over the direction of your life and a lot of control over the direction of the society, far more than you currently do. We also want you to then understand that decisions are being made. You're making decisions day to day. Sometimes they're just by default. And in fact, those decisions have impacts. They have results. So can we notice the results of the things that are happening right now? Another goal that we have for you is to understand key issue areas in the society right now. First thing that we're going to talk about in the class is mass media and access to the internet. The internet right now is probably the most influential information outlet that the world has ever seen. We've got billions and billions of people connected to each other. We've never had the ability to do that before. Who's going to control that? Who's controlling it right now? It is being controlled. And right now there are amazing possibilities for a democratic society and kind of frightening possibilities for Big Brother controlling you. And so that's a struggle that we need to understand. Probably more important than that struggle is the struggle over the future of the ecological systems that we're in. That is the environmental movement. All of the ecological systems that are allowing us to sustain human civilization are in collapse. The fisheries, the oceans, the groundwater, the soils. And there's not really a lot of dispute about that. Another key issue has to do with corporations and big money and the infusion of corporate power and big money into every decision-making process that we're in, particularly in the electoral process. We're going to then also look at the politics of social class inequality, the struggle over worker rights. We'll look at the politics of race and immigration. We will look at the politics of gender and sexism and gender-based organizing, the whole struggle for equality around sexuality and sexual preference. We'll come back around and look at corporations and global capitalism. We're at this sort of tipping point where there's been such a massive infusion of money into the formal political process. It's not quite clear whether we can tip those scales back. Now, here's the thing that we're going to understand, though, that all of these issues, in fact, are interconnected. If the politics of gender are tied to the politics of race, and the politics of race are tied to the politics of immigration, and immigration is tied to the politics of social class and inequality, what it means is that every person in this room, in order for your life to go better, you've got to figure out how do you pull other people along. The last learning goal that we would like you to focus on is to understand the history and the contemporary context of social movement organizing. You know, the engine of change and democracy in this country has been work at the grassroots, has been organizing among regular people to empower themselves, to empower their families, their friends, their communities, to fight for the interests of those communities. Big changes have never come from the top. They've always been driven, at least in large measure, through regular people at the base of the society, the grassroots of the society. You'll find those learning goals on the syllabus overview and learning goals link. And they're just right down here, and there are going to be many times where I refer back to those. What did that have to do with the learning goals? And you'll go back and you'll go say, well, what was that again? What are we studying? Just reference that again. Required reading. There's a lot of reading in the class. I'm a big believer in the written word. Most of the readings that you have assigned in this class are available or accessible online. There is one full book that you'll be using, The Politics of Power, 7th edition. There's also a 6th edition, but I do not encourage people to get the 6th edition. It's way less expensive, but it's the wrong edition. You're also going to read the course syllabus and the assignments, and we've got 2 chapters out of a book called Plan B 4.0, but that book is available online for free. Let's talk a little bit about grading policy, and then we're going to take a break. Okay. It's a 1,000-point scale. There's 100 points of extra credit. To get an A in the class, you need 934 points. If you're just trying to pass the class, you need 700 points. Okay? So it's pretty much straight percentages. Please pay attention to the drop ad deadlines and so forth. If you miss the deadline, I can't do anything about it. It used to be that I had some discretion and I could add people or I could drop people. They will not let me do that anymore. So please pay attention to the refund and drop dates, etc.